Hello everyone, it's Tentafore here, and in today's video we're going to be delving into a very obscure and shocking theory that I have recently came up with. Have you ever read a book called Matilda? No, most of you probably can't read. But have you ever seen the film of it? No, you probably think it's too old. But have you seen the musical of it on stage? Again, no, you probably can't be asked to leave the house. But have you seen the film adaptation of the musical adaptation of a book? No, but you've probably seen a clip of it online at some point and found it mildly interesting, only to carry on scrolling. Well, having read and seen and watched all four at various points in my life, I've noticed something very unsettling about one of the characters. Was it Mr. and Mrs. Wormwood and their neglect of their young daughter? Was it Miss Honey adopting one of her 6-year-old students? No, it was of course Miss Agatha Trunchbull. But what was it about her, I hear you asking loudly and repeatedly? Well, it was about her character and where it came from. When Roald Dahl conceived the character in 1988, he claimed that she was based on his own school teachers. Well, I've got a question for you, Mr. Dahl. Do you think I'm fucking stupid? It's very clear who this atrocious woman was inspired by, and if you guys haven't figured it out yet, you're gonna be kicking yourselves after I tell you. I put it to you, but the hidden inspiration behind the character of Agatha Trunchbull was none other than Adolf Hitler. So let's begin by assessing the portrayal of this concerningly Hitler-esque character in the 1996 adaptation of Matilda. We first see a shadow of her when she visits Wormwood Motors, and Matilda's father, Harry Wormwood, instantly admires her as she introduces herself as the headmistress of Cruncham Hall. If it wasn't immediately obvious to you that Harry would relate to her, I suggest you rewind to where he starts ripping up one of Matilda's books. He can only have gotten that idea from the Nazis, who were not as brave as Harry, and burned the books rather than tearing them, presumably to avoid any paper cuts. Anyway, we hear Miss Trunchbull blaming innocent children for the problems of today's society, denying that she was ever a child herself. This is clearly a direct reference to Hitler's constant denial that he too was secretly Jewish. The next day, Matilda arrives at the gates of Cruncham Hall, and just look at them. Does the shape of this not clearly resemble the Reichsadler symbol used by the Nazi regime? If that wasn't enough, just look at the building claiming to be a school. I hope there's never a fire there, because I wouldn't trust the school to put water in the sprinklers. So at this point in the movie, the writers likely anticipated my suspicions that this was some sort of Nazi allegory, and started retconning Miss Trunchbull's similarity to Hitler. She is suddenly a meat-eater. Fresh meat. And out of all the children she could have targeted, she attacks a girl with blonde hair and blue eyes. After Miss Honey meets Matilda in class and discovers she is intellectually superior to her, she goes to Miss Trunchbull's office and asks her to be removed from her class and put with the older students. As you can see in her office, she clearly admires Hitler, otherwise why would she have a model of the Reichsadler eagle on her desk? Miss Trunchbull dismisses Matilda's intelligence and compares it to that of a calculator, suggesting that human brains like Matilda's are of no value and should be replaced by computers. Eugenics at its finest. The next day, she rallies the whole school into the assembly hall, and whilst one of her revoltingly fat students is half reluctantly eating a massive chocolate cake, she starts yelling at the crowd of children. If only she were waving her fists, then it would be obvious to anyone with a brain that she was channeling the Fuhrer at this very moment. Furious at Bruce Bogtrotter for surviving an entire cake, she imprisons the entire school for 5 hours and threatens to purge any student who dared to question her authority. The next day, after realising she has been well and truly conned by Mr. Wormwood, she kidnaps his innocent daughter and condemns her to the chokey, a tiny cupboard full of nails and, you guessed it, broken glass. Subtle, eh? Little does she know that Lavender is plotting a resistance against this autocratic regime, ever so akin to that of Nazi Germany. Did you see the list of students' duties attached to the classroom wall? Salute the headmistress being number 10. Shocker. Anyway, back to the Lavender plot. She attempts to contaminate the Trunchbull's beverage, which by the way was water, if it wasn't already obvious, with a newt in disguise as a snake. But as if seeing this newt wasn't traumatising enough, she was about to get her Reichstag fire moment. While she's ranting away about her superiority to everybody in the class, even insisting that she is God, the glass inexplicably tips over by itself in a clear attempt to drown her. She ludicrously scapegoats Matilda, obviously because she's a child, and storms out of the class. After school, Miss Honey invites Matilda to her house, and if this film was set in the UK, Miss Honey would be sacked on the spot for such a heinous safeguarding violation. Anyway, they later turn up at Miss Trunchbull's house, her blatant equivalent of a Wolfschanz. Outside, they see her being terrorised by a black cat. If there's one thing Hitler hated, it was cats. I don't know if he ever met one, but he didn't seem like a cat person. I mean, he poisoned his own dog before he blew his own shit smooth off, but at least he never drop-kicked a cat. Trunchbull's evil knows no bounds meanwhile. She drives away, only for her car to break down almost immediately. She storms back into her house while Miss Honey is giving Matilda an illegal tour of her house, only to hear her ranting on the phone to Harry about her pathetic excuse for a car. If you've ever watched Downfall, you'd know Trunchbull exhibited the same level of fury as Hitler did whenever he was on the phone with anyone. She chases Matilda and Miss Honey through her house. I'll be honest, I don't know how to compare any of this to Hitler's actions. Trust the writers to write the most intense scene without any Nazi connotations, just to annoy me. Anyway, after Matilda realises she can rage bait Adolf by just using her eyes, she returns to the Trunchbull's lair to torment her. Legend has it that on the night of the 20th of April 1945, the window to Hitler's bedroom randomly shut by itself. His clock started being controlled by some supernatural force, as did his armchair and his electricity. Not only that, but the portrait of himself that he had somewhere disappeared, and was suddenly replaced by a portrait of Ernst Röhm, whom Hitler had murdered. No historian has ever spoken of this horrific encounter Hitler had with the occult. Only Danny DeVito seemed to be aware of it. The next morning, the Trunchbull arrives at Crunchbull and takes over Miss Honey's class to confront the children about her traumatic experience the previous night. She uses a red ribbon as evidence against Matilda, which leads to Miss Honey revealing she is the niece of Miss Trunchbull. As she begins to threaten Matilda with being
put away in a place where not even the crows can land their droppings on you,
obvious code for a concentration camp, a message appears on the chalkboard from Magnus. This is a clear reference to the news Hitler received about Steiner's failure to attack the Soviets in the Battle for Berlin, which led to his suicide and the end of the Second World War and the Nazi regime. After Matilda continues to terrorise her, she finds herself surrounded by the whole school ready to throw food at her. The resistance is well and truly in full swing, and Trunchbull escapes in her shitty car, never to be seen or heard from again. You may think I'm out of reasons to compare her to Hitler now, but no, because her disappearance is a clear reference to Hitler's so-called suicide, which he obviously faked so he could run away to Argentina, where I imagine the Trunchbull is still hiding to this day. So that's the 1996 movie covered, but don't think I've forgotten about the musical version. That's a whole other iceberg to go over. Just like the Crunchbull of the first movie, the 2022 version's school looks just as Nazi-ish. When Miss Honey is in the Trunchbull's office, she again dismisses the idea of Matilda being remotely intelligent given she is a child, and insists that all children are maggots. I can't think of a more fascistic way of attacking vulnerable minorities like the Trunchbull did just then. After Miss Honey starts running her mouth about the possibility of her boss breaking her own rules, she bursts into song about how brilliant she is, just like Hitler did from time to time, and forces the entire school to stand up and sing along with her. After several innocent children are imprisoned by the Trunchbull for crimes they probably didn't commit, Matilda begins to front a resistance to this evil empire, her one-word attack line, "No," becoming a mantra to her fellow warriors. But the Trunchbull refuses to accept any sort of dirty protesting from her maggots, and rallies Miss Honey's class into a phys ed lesson. And I know what you're all thinking, but no, this is not the Hitler Youth training for battle. This is just what every gym class looks like in the UK. Anyway, this version of the Trunchbull is clearly a racist. Yes, she allows black teachers and children in her school, but she'll never miss an opportunity to blame an ethnic minority for her troubles, like finding a newt in her water. If you thought Hitler's treatment of Jesse Owens at the Olympics was appalling, you've not seen shit. She inflicts a cruel and unusual punishment on the poor scapegoat as part of her long-conducted experimentations on children. Still don't believe she was a racist? Okay, that was a cheap laugh. Anyway, the next day the Trunchbull is out of patience. She won't take any more no's for her answers, and forces Miss Honey's class into a spelling test, in which failure to spell a word correctly would result in a life sentence to the chokey, which almost happened when a girl failed to correctly spell a word she came up with. How utterly cruelent of her. After the musical version of Matilda Wormwood fails to scare away the Trunchbull with the same old method as seen in the original film, she makes the Trunchbull think that Magnus has been reincarnated as some big fuck-off chain monster. And holy shit, look at this shot and tell me she doesn't look exactly like Hitler. The lack of lighting literally makes it look as if she has a toothbrush moustache. After that fails, Matilda finally figures out the one thing that can bring down the Trunchbull, and indeed any dictator. Making her grow pigtails and using them to fling her out of the school. The end. Oh, and Harry actually seems to love her daughter deep down, unlike her mother. In the movie, and also the book, it's Matilda's mother who seemed to care about her more, but we never see this in more than one scene in both movies. Just something I wanted to point out. Anyway, I hope you liked this very thought-provoking video, and I hope you realised I was taking the piss throughout, but I genuinely always have found the character of Miss Trunchbull to be somewhat reminiscent of Hitler. Maybe this video made you see it too, even though it was mostly a joke. I'll be back with you soon with another video. I've already got 2 in development, which should pop up in your recommended in the coming months. Make sure to subscribe if you like my content. I'm uploading at least once a month throughout 2026, and I will carry on next year if enough of you guys want me to. Until then, consider joining my Discord server. There'll be a link to it in the description. Currently it's not active at all, but you can change that today. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you around.
fucking cunt!